A beautiful place. So these are real pictures. So whenever you want to go for a nice place in Mexico and cheap, go to Chiapas. That's the way to go. So after spending my childhood in Mexico, I ended up 20 years later here. So I was just making the counts, and I left my home Chiapas in '96, and in 2016 I started here as a faculty. So it took me 20 years to kind of come to UCSD. It was never my goal to come to UCSD. Things happen like that. I always was just trying to move forward to go to my next goal, step by step. And I can tell you, all the things that they were telling, it was never my plan, honestly. I was going to do something better, but things happen a little bit like from luck sometimes because things came unexpectedly. Some things I really achieved it because I wanted, but not always. Okay, so this idea that I plan my life like this and I'm going to achieve all those things, at least for me, never worked. Okay, it was just trying to push always forward for the next goal. So right now I have a group in nanotechnology. So this is my group. Normally during the summer is very cool because I have a lot of summer students, and then we have more people around, and that's a really good atmosphere where we have students from high school, students from community college coming and doing research in my lab. And just a little bit of what I have done in my career. I actually started working just making very, very small structures, nanostructures. For example, these letters, you will be able to actually have, so the size of these letters will be like something like 10,000 times thinner than one of your hairs. So that was when nanotechnology was starting to like push you forward. I have done stuff with energy, trying to make new solar cells. Some of them work nicely, some of them didn't work at all, but anyway, I was happy just trying new things. Then in Berkeley, I started working with nanomaterials and something called graphene, which is a very, very thin material, only 1 atom thick. And that's basically, I was an expert on that, and that's actually why I got my job here at UCSD to do research on that. So, what I want to tell you a little bit more is basically how I ended up here. So, how I went basically from Chiapas to UCSD, and you will see that actually it was a very, very complicated trip that implied going to Europe and then coming back. And I can say that it was a tough trip, but just to keep myself grounded, keep in mind, keep perspective that however I can tell that it was hard, because I was having to get like degrees and homework and work in the lab, I can never compare that to the fact of other people who's also doing the same, but in far worse conditions, okay? So I'm sure that many of you, some of your parents perhaps, had to do this, right? Crossing Mexico in far worse conditions. So just keep in mind that sometimes, despite how difficult things are for us, keep the perspective that some other people might be in worse shape, okay? So feel also sometimes fortunate about the opportunities that you have had. So first of all, not everyone starts with the same opportunities, okay? And that's why we're here. Because sometimes some people deserve more help, sometimes things have been more difficult for them, and that's why we're here to help each other, right? Because if I was fortunate to achieve something, I'm more than happy to help other people in achieving their goals, okay? When you're in a high position, try always to give your hand to the people who is below and help them out to come up with you, okay? So I'm going to talk about a little bit of the situation in Mexico because I'm familiar with that. It's something that kind of touches me really close to what I feel and what I think is important. So Mexico is a pretty bad country in terms of education, right? Whenever they come with rankings about education, Mexico comes usually at the bottom. So it's pretty bad in that sense. So actually, sometimes I really struggle with parents of some of students from Hispanic origin, that sometimes the parents, they don't grasp how important is education. And sometimes that's a barrier for you, because I'm sure that many of you want to go to college, you want to have a better education, and perhaps sometimes your parents don't see the relevance of that, how important is their support for you. So, always bad, like you see, like Mexico, for example, in math, we're doing pretty bad. Even the teachers, sometimes we think that they're not really qualified. So that's bad, but it's not as bad as the situation for the indigenous communities in Mexico. Okay, kids who really sometimes don't speak Spanish, they have to learn Spanish as a second language because their real language is an indigenous language. Okay, and it's even worse when people in the cities, we make fun of them because we think that they are not so prepared, that they are not really prepared for the modern world. So we do a lot of discrimination against them. So you end up in the cities having kids 7 years old, 5 years old, working in the street, selling candy, selling stuff at 11 p.m. at night, or just cleaning shoes, okay? So this is not fair, okay? And you can imagine, that's what I was telling you, you cannot expect the same achievements in life for these kids that for someone, for example, like me, who I was fortunate to be not rich, but having a family that was supporting me, was always trying to help me in my education, okay? So the funny thing is the following. These kids who are from indigenous communities, they are from Chiapas, many times, sometimes they don't speak Spanish at all. So, but I can tell you, their ancestors, the same people who had the same blood running through their blood as them, they did something like this. Anyone knows what is that? Some guess, idea?
Is it math?
Yeah, it's kind of math, absolutely true. So this is a Mayan document. It's called, actually, sadly, it has a German name. It's called the Dresden Codex, which is very frustrating, right? That imagine that you prepare a document or it's your thesis and someone comes and takes it. And they say, oh, I'm going to call it with the name of someone else, right, when it was your work. So sadly, right now, the official name for this document is the Dresden Codex. Dresden is a city in Germany. And in the museum in Dresden, they have this document, okay? So, as she said, this document actually has a lot of math. This document is of Mayan origin and has information about the motion of the stars and the planets. So I don't know if some of you heard about this thing in 2012, about the Mayan prophecy that the world was going to come to an end because of changes in times. Well, a lot of that stuff was actually in here. And it was just telling that there was a change, a new change in the cycles of different planets. So this document actually, if you look around all this, it actually has math things. And the Mayans actually, they were pretty good at math. So you cannot find out how the stars are moving, or you cannot predict anything in the future if your math is not solid, okay? So the Mayan people, actually the same people that you saw there by just taking classes in basically without any room. So their ancestors, they used to have a very good Mayan math system. So can you follow what is going on here? This is 0, 1, well, they only have these three symbols, 0, 1, and 5. Just the shell, the dot, and the bar. So with all these three things, they could do easily numbers to 20. Okay? I guess it's easy to follow. But that was, of course, it wasn't enough, right? If you want to do like thousands or 10,000, then you have to go to higher numbers. And this is how they did it. So what is the base of our numerical system? What is the basic number when you went to do the counting? 10, right? Correct. For them it was 20. From left to right, they will do it from bottom to up. So the first kind of slot would be, we will have a value of 1, then 20, then 400. So this is a 12, right? 2 bars and 2 dots, that's a 12. This is a 1, so if you multiply this by 20, so this is a 1 times 20 is 20, so this 12, it makes this 32. Correct? So check this out. And you see this is a, this is a 10, right? Times 8,000, that's 80,000. This is an 8 times 400, that's 3,200, and from here you get a 40, and this is a 0. Okay? So that's how the Mayans were doing numbers. Okay? So it's sad to see, but the same people who right now is like really in bad situation because they don't have any education. 1,000 years ago, they were able to put this system together, and they were able to start like observing the stars and making predictions. Okay? So just to see, like, sometimes, you might think some people, oh, these people cannot do anything. Well, that's not true. Perhaps sometimes the situation that we are putting them in that is like affecting them or not letting them do their achieve their full potential. They also have words. They have basically a vocabulary, and they were able to put syllables together to make words. The people in the center of Mexico, the Aztec people, they have beautiful poetry as well, beautiful things. They also had like all these things like buildings that people didn't know what was them for. It was mainly to observe the stars, to observe the planets, and see what was going on. And as I told you, they were able to predict a lot of eclipses. Now, I was talking about the Mayans because it's kind of like something that is close to my heart. But it's not always like that, right? If you look at Arab countries that are in trouble, well, they're using their numbers, right? The Arabic numbers, they come from them. So it's funny because I had a friend who was like complaining, oh, well, why is it that we have to learn English? I mean, it's like they're trying to impose this to everyone. And I was like, that's true, but everyone is using your numbers, So again, we're using the Arabic numbers. So, at some point in life, Arab people, they were also like really ruling on math and science. So you might think that, oh, these barbarians, I don't know what is going on, but at some point in life, they were doing amazing things, okay? Also, brothers, I mean, the African American community, I used to live in Oakland. When I was in Berkeley, I moved to Oakland, and just like seeing like whole like African American people who like always treat you when you were going in the street and always willing to help you, it was a lesson for me in life. You know, being in Oakland and always telling me, well, I was living in Berkeley, and people telling me, oh, don't go to those areas in Oakland because it's dangerous. Oh, you shouldn't go there. Why are you moving there? I mean, I was like, well, okay, maybe a little bit dangerous, but once you meet the people and you break this barrier that someone is trying to impose on you, you break those barriers and then you start to make friendships, you start to connect with people. So basically, what I want to tell you is the following. No, it doesn't matter what is your race, or your beliefs, or your language, okay? We're able to make a connection, and we're able to make a better place out of this world, okay? Put always aside your differences in terms of race and all those things. At the end, we're all human, right? And if you want a scientific proof, let me just check this 90%, right? That's what everyone says. So we're pretty much the same thing, okay? So all these like superficial differences are just like barriers that we want to see and that prevent us from being like a good community together. So the effect of this on me was actually to give me something very important that is critical for you. Confidence. If you don't trust in your abilities, if you don't trust in yourself, it's very difficult to move forward. Try to do something that you're afraid of. Probably you will make it because you're always thinking that you will make it, right? You will be like, oh, I'm afraid I'm gonna hurt myself. So confidence is very, very important. And I think for my side, I would say that's the most important thing that I had in my life that allowed me to move forward and achieve my goals, okay? So confidence is the most important thing, and that's the thing. We are always able to do much more than we think that we can do it. Sometimes people is trying to put you down and they will tell you, oh no, you're not gonna make it, it's gonna be very difficult, and try it. They're just trying to kill your confidence. But you know what? When you achieve something, you always try to tell the other people you can do it, okay? It's normally the people who is not trying to do something new, is people who have never tried who are gonna tell you, oh, don't try it, okay? But rather the people who have achieved those things are gonna tell you, try it because I have done it and I know that you can do it, okay? So basically, this is basically what drives me, and what I'm gonna tell you now is a little bit, I'm gonna play like 3 minutes of like a, not fake, but I'm gonna tell you something that I say to people when I go to conferences or when I'm trying to like get funding. So I have to play on my kind of like the achievements that I have done. But then I'm gonna tell you really what is behind and what I want to share with you. So this is basically my resume. So I always say that I'm from Chiapas, and when I left Chiapas, I went to the north to study physics, right? That was my goal. I knew that I wanted to study physics, and I went to a very good school in the north of Mexico. Then I wanted also to go abroad. I wanted to know a little bit more about the world, and I had the chance to go to Sweden. And as you mentioned, I entered into this Master's in Nanoscale Science and Nanotechnology back in 2000. So it was actually the first European program doing nanotechnology. So that was basically a big change in my life, and that's how I got into nanotechnology. Then I still wanted to explore the world. It wasn't enough for me. I had a chance to go to Holland, because actually when I was starting to discover nanotechnology, I got to know something about some structures called carbon nanotubes. And there was a professor in Holland who was very good at those things. So I actually wrote him an email asking him if I could join his lab. So he told me, well, you know, you could join, but you need funding, right? Because I'm not going to support you, because I don't even know who you are, so you need to get some funding to come here. So I applied for a grant to the Dutch government, and I was one of the 2 Mexicans who got that grant. After that, actually, I went back to Mexico because I really didn't know what to do with my life. I didn't know if I wanted to stay in Europe, or if I wanted to go back to Mexico, or if I wanted to keep in academia. I went back to Mexico, but then I really realized that, okay, I wanted to do a PhD. And that's why I ended up going to Switzerland. I applied for a PhD there, and I was happily accepted. Then again, after my PhD, also again, I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep in academia. Also, not only because I wasn't sure, I didn't know if I was able to do it. So when I got an opportunity to work in a company in Germany, I was like, I'll take it. So I went to work in a company in Germany. I was in Berlin. It's pretty cool, pretty amazing time. Well, if you want to party, you have to go to Berlin. You can see like a factory, and you will see that in the evening it's a club. So, but actually, yeah, I mean, also one time it was fun because I didn't know that below the basement in the basement of my building, there was actually parties every night until a friend of mine told me, hey, you want to come down to the party? Like, which party? There's no bar around. Oh, yeah, it's in the bottom of the basement. And actually, we went down, and then the door of the elevator just opened, and I was like, so I was like, oh, man. So that was a good time. And then I really wasn't happy doing like working in industry. So I got accepted for doing a postdoc at UC Berkeley. So I spent 4 amazing years in Berkeley in the physics department. And I still had a last trip to Spain to do more something about photonics and nanotechnology. So this was my career, okay? And basically this is what helped me to land this job at UC San Diego. Now, what I'm not telling you is that in between all those things, there were a lot of failures that I'm not telling you. Because when you want to achieve something or you want to show something to people, you only show what you have done that has worked, right? They always try to hide the parts that didn't work. Because no one likes to admit that they have failed sometimes. They were always afraid of saying, oh, it didn't work or I failed. I want to talk about it because the failures, those are the times when you fail, the times when things are not working the way you want, those are the critical times in your career, okay? When things go the way you want, everyone is happy and that's pretty cool, okay? The problem is when you don't get accepted into the school that you want, when you fail an exam, okay? Those are the times when you really need support and when you need the confidence to keep going and to keep moving forward, okay? So let me go into the things that I didn't tell you that I don't tell people like that. Well, I think by now I'll know this. So actually, I'm from Chiapas, right? In Mexico, there is a national university. It's the best one in Mexico, no doubt about it. It's a beautiful school. You know, even the buildings are like have these beautiful murals. And I grew up in Mexico City, and my dad used to take me to this school almost every month to play, to go around and bikes and everything. So my dream was to go to that school. Okay. So when I was finishing high school, I knew that I wanted to do physics, and I was telling my teachers that I was going to apply to this school. And my teachers were super excited. They were like, oh yeah, finally we're going to get someone from Chiapas to go to the National University. He's very good and he will make it, right? So I was all excited. I studied as much as I could, but I failed the exam, okay? That was one of the saddest days of my life, and I didn't tell my teachers. Some teachers, I never see them again because I was scared or I was afraid that they would be like disappointed about it. And I could see actually the friends of mine like, oh my God, he didn't make it. And, you know, it was like a big failure because when you have such high expectations from people and you don't realize them, you're like, I prefer not to tell anyone. And actually I told people that, some people I didn't tell them, I told them I didn't apply. The only one that really knew was my dad because I had to tell him. And you know, actually, it was my dad who, my parents who told me, you know, Oscar, this was a good thing that my dad was very pragmatic. He really wasn't like he wasn't caring about like going to the best school. He just wanted to give me a good education. So he just told me, well, there are more schools, right? There are other universities. And I was like, yeah, but not like that one. And he was like, oh, whatever, just, you have to get your degree, so move forward, right? So I got accepted into this other school, which was a private school, but I was lucky to get a fellowship. So I basically got a fellowship that covered like 90% of my tuition. And here's the thing. This was, I think, in 96. In 98, this university, there was a big strike. So this university stopped working for like 2 years, okay? So I was like, wow. I mean, this was kind of those things when this was the first time that this happened to me, that what I wanted, that it was a good thing that it didn't happen the way I wanted. I was like, wow. If I would have gone to the National University, I don't know if I would have finished my career. So this was the first time that happened to me. Sometimes really what you want in life might not be the best in the future, okay? But I mean, I'm telling you this now that I look into the past, but I didn't learn that lesson actually. So I told you that I went to Sweden, right? Well, I never wanted to go, that wasn't my plan. I didn't want to go to Sweden actually. What I wanted to do was going to Vancouver, because someone told me that Vancouver was a beautiful place and the Canadians were super cool. So I was like, yeah, let's go to Vancouver. So if I wanted to go to Vancouver, I had to apply for a program in electrical engineering, okay? And I was doing physics. So my plan was to go for like an exchange for just like 6 months. So I applied to go to Vancouver the first time, and well, the bad thing was that they told me, oh, you're a physicist, we want electrical engineers. So the first time that I applied, they rejected my file, okay? But of course I was very persistent, so I said, I want to go to Vancouver, so I'm gonna prepare myself better. So I started taking classes in electrical engineering, so that for the next round, they would say, oh no, this guy is prepared. So I did it, I prepared much better the second time. Actually, I got a I graded my examination for entering into this school, Simon Fraser University. And again, I didn't make it, okay? But again, there was someone wise around me who told me, Oscar, come on, move forward, you know? I mean, this is not the only school, and they told me there is actually a spot free in Sweden. And I was like, I don't want to go to Sweden. So, they told me, you know, if you don't go this time, this is your last time, because I was already in my senior year, okay? So, suddenly, I went to Sweden, and when I arrived there to Sweden, they told me, oh, you know, Oscar, you were accepted actually to the master's program in nanotechnology. I was like, what? I never applied for those things. And they told me, because you come from an undeveloped country, we're giving you a fellowship. So now, all of a sudden, I was like enrolling in a master's program that I didn't apply for, and also got a fellowship that also I didn't apply for. Of course, as a good Mexican, I didn't say that I didn't apply for it. I was like, okay, there is some money coming, and I got into that program, I'm going to say anything. So, I knew something was going to happen, right? So I just was going to the lectures and just think, yeah, I'm in the master's program. So 1 month later, I got a letter from the international program in Sweden writing that, hey, what is your degree? What is your bachelor's degree? We don't have your documents proving that you have finished your undergraduate studies. And I was like, oh, I haven't finished. And they told me, well, why they're in master's program? And I was like, I don't know, I didn't ask for being in this program. It was you who put me to that program, right? So they were actually pretty angry. Makes sense, right? So then what happened was that my heroes were actually, he was the director of the nanotechnology program. So the international program was like administration, but the director of the nanoscale program, he was telling them, you know, Oscar is doing fine, and we want to keep him. We would like to keep him in the master program. Now I know why he did it. I'll explain you why he did it. Well, let me show you. The thing was that there were only 10 people in the program, right? So if you remove one of them, it will be kind of like below the threshold for keep the program running. So I guess I was just the guy who said, okay, let's put this guy in the program so we can keep the program running, actually. And also, they were trying to make this like an international program. So this was the first generation of that program. And most of them were Swedish, and they were all like 3 foreigners. So if they would have removed me from the program, they would have been in trouble. Okay, so I was like, I thought, oh, they're pretty cool. But actually, I was kind of like in the right spot in the right place. And the only thing that I can say in my favor is that I was doing pretty good in classes. So they told me, they were talking to the professors, and they were saying, he's doing all these quantum mechanics. So that's what I did, quantum mechanics. So basically, I would say like my merit was that even though I was there in the master's program and I was a little bit like intimidated by these genius Swedish people, I still believe that I could do it. I was doing all my effort to take exams and do good in school. And the professors realized that I was doing good, and that's why they defeated me actually, because they thought I was really doing well. Okay, so from like screaming about not going to Simon Fraser for the second time in my life, the thing that I wanted didn't happen, and that was a good thing at the end. Okay, and that kind of makes sense. When you make a decision, you're taking that decision based on what you're living right now. Okay, you never know what's going to happen in your future. You never know how things are going to be there once you move there. So a lot of things you really don't know. The decision that you take about the future is just your feeling, what people is telling you, and that's all that you can do. Okay, so don't be surprised if things don't go the way you want, and if things don't actually happen the way you want. Take my example. Sometimes things can actually turn very good, even if things don't go the way you want. The best one was the last one in Berkeley. Okay, so I always say, I was in UC Berkeley in the physics department. Wait, I went to Berkeley to the chemistry department at the first time, because I got a fellowship from the Swiss government to go to Berkeley. And once you have your own money, basically any professor is going to take you inside. Right? Now I'm doing the same actually right now, so it's kind of like that. So I was accepted by this professor, who is really, really good. He was, at that time, he was the top scientist in material science. So I was doing physics, and my PhD was in microtechnology. So I was very good doing microtechnology and nanoscale materials. And he was a chemist, okay? And I wanted to learn chemistry. That was always a little bit my dream. I wanted to be able to make nanoscale structures by chemistry. So I arrived to his lab, it was, I think, in September, and he told me, you know, Oscar, I think we need to shift a little bit your project because I'm running out of money to pay for your fabrication and stuff. So we need to do something a little bit different of what you want to, of what was the first goal. So I was, no problem, I'll do it. I'm very good. I'll learn, okay? So as time started to go on, after 1 month, I was like coming with results, and he wasn't really happy at all with the stuff that I was showing to him. And I knew that. I also was disappointed about the stuff that I was doing. And I also see that my ideas were not as good as I was thinking, okay? So he started to like kind of getting annoyed that I wasn't delivering the results that he expected. And I also started to feel that I wasn't really going to be able to do it, okay? So the breaking point came like 3 months later when he told me, you know, I think if you don't come to the next week with good results, you're out of the lab, okay? So you need to kind of like look for a different lab or look for a different university. So there was like a huge punch in my confidence, right? I remember I started to thinking, okay, shall I repay the money that I got from the fellowship? What I'm gonna do, for example, I had paid like 6 months of my rent, so I was like, can I get that money back? So I started to just like get crazy about my future, right? And that's again when I had friends who told me, you know, Oscar, he cannot keep you out of the university because you have your own money. So you just have to kind of like be strong and tell him that you're gonna figure out what to do with your project. So I kind of like felt like a second like motivation, and I kept working for 1 more month, and things didn't go well. So he told me, okay, you have to change to a new lab. So I was like depressed and sad, and I actually started looking for a new lab. I started to talk to the professors, and eventually I found a professor who I found a professor who was willing to take me to his lab. So once we were in a group meeting, still in the chemistry lab, and he got a phone call. And he was talking, and he looked at me. And then he was like, oh, so he went and he talked to you. And I was like, woo. So apparently he was talking with the new professor, and apparently, I think he was not happy that I was talking to a professor without telling him. So he got again very mad, and he told me, okay, Oscar, you have to leave the university because this is unacceptable. That day I was like really, really like sad. I was like crying, like I didn't know what to do. And then basically my former mentor from Switzerland, he told me, you know, Oscar, he cannot kick you out of the university. He's just trying to kind of like really like impose his decision on you, but he cannot do that. Other friends told me the same, you know, he's just trying to like put you down and do whatever. He's trying to kick you out of the university, and if you just follow his game, he will do it, and you will just leave the university without having to do it. So I guess that was like one of the days where I really like feel that I was empowered to do something. I told him, you know, Professor Pedro, I'm leaving your lab, I'm moving to this lab, and if you want to keep me out of the university, you have to do it. I'm not gonna put a bullet in my foot. If you want to do something, do it. I'm not gonna like give back my fellowship. And then he told me, oh no, that's something that you have to do. If you have ethics, you have to leave the university by your own. I went, no, that's my career. So you know, so when he said that, I was like, I feel that I don't know that I had the power, you know. And then, so that was basically one of the toughest 6 months of my career that I never told people when I was applying for this position, because you don't want to tell that you failed in a lab, right? But that happened in my career, and then I moved to the physics department, and then things went like super, super cool with my new professor in physics, okay? So this was definitely my biggest failure, no doubt about it. But that was actually probably one of the best experiences that I had in my life, where I had to prove myself, what I felt were my friends, what I felt were like supporting me. And since that time, I have always felt like very empowered to do the things that I believe are good for me, okay? So, dare to try always. Always try new things, never be afraid of trying. Stand up after you fail, okay? Never let yourself down and try again, okay? Failure is part of the game. And actually, let me show you this. So you might think that because I'm a professor, I'm like kind of like done, and that I just relax, haven't put in quizzes for students, and that I have no stress out. So this idea that you're gonna, let's say like eventually succeed and be in heaven and just enjoy life, that will never happen, okay? So I thought that once you were a professor, things were gonna be like more relaxed. Let me tell you. So our job as a professor is part is partially to bring money to capital, right, to do research. So we also have we're being tested all the time. So these are a list of proposals that I have put for the National Science Foundation, okay? So if you can see, 4 of them have been declined. This one was recently declined. So I only have 2 of them surviving. So I have only 2 out of 7, okay? In average, professors at UCSD, that you might think that we are super smart, the statistics is that out of 10 proposals that we put, only 3 of them will be granted, okay? So we have to accept that things are not going to work all the time, okay? So the same is going to happen for you, with you. You're going to be taking classes, you're going to be doing research in the lab, and many times things won't work the way you want, and that's fine. Get used to that because that's life, okay? So actually, for today's a good example that I want to show you. So this was my very first proposal. I put it actually before I came to UCSD. I knew that I was coming to UCSD, so they let me put a proposal for the NSF. So I wrote this proposal, and they told me, oh, I regret to inform you that Anina and I should never support the proposal. Do you think I was sad and depressed? Just a little bit, because by that time I knew that it was going to be tough. It's like if you come I don't know, in football soccer, right? You come from the lower division to the upper division, you don't expect to make it and be the champion the first time you go in, right? Right? I mean, right now my mood is that I always, whenever I try something the first time, I'm ready to fail. And that's fine, okay? What is important for me is to understand what is it that didn't work, and be ready to try again. So I tried again 1 year later, and almost the same proposal was actually positively reviewed by the panel. And I got my first grant last year. And that was a very, very big plus, okay? So what I did was basically, I got these reviews for 1 month. I was thinking, oh, these guys don't understand, they're really stupid. My idea is super brilliant. So that's fine, I mean, you can do that for 1 month. And then afterwards, I was okay, I'm gonna read the reviews and the critics. I mean, they were good critics, they were fair, right? Once you accept those things, once you accept the critic, then you can really take those comments and make your proposal much better. And that's what I did the second time, okay? So always take these failures or these tough times as an opportunity to improve. I know it's easy to say it. I'm not saying that, oh, if you fail, you should be happy. That's not the point, but always you have to kind of be mature and brave to accept sometimes when things are not working. And stand strong and then see how can you improve, okay? So, for example, it was a good news. Actually, I just got a new grant last week. So, sometimes you will have bad moments, but you will always have sometimes successes, and that's the important thing. There will always be a balance. So, about confidence, believe it or not, for example, just to tell you how important it is to trust in what you can do. So, with all these pounds on top, 5 years ago, I actually finished a marathon. Why I'm telling you this? Because a lot of people don't know, you're fine, you will make it, it's very difficult. I can do it. I mean, because in Switzerland I used to do a lot of biking, so I knew it was going to be difficult, but somehow inside myself I thought that it was possible. Okay, so I trained a lot, and I made it. I finished a marathon. Actually, I did 3 marathons. Okay, so what drives you is believing that you can do it. If you don't believe it, it won't happen. Okay, that's the very first step to achieve something. Believe that you can do it. Okay. I also got into the Red Cross doing the volunteering work, and I also was super happy to do it. But you know what? I also tried to be into the American football team in my high school, and that didn't happen. So I was kicked out after 6 months. But that's fine. I mean, it's not a big deal. But the important thing is to always try. You won't be able to always succeed. Sometimes you will fail, but that's part of life. Okay? And this is the thing. Now when all these people say, oh, it's important to try, and it's from failure that you learn, now I see the point, because at the end, this is the thing. When you win, no one is going to tell you, oh, you should improve, or you could have done this better, right? When you win, when you succeed, you're just enjoying things, right? It's only when you fail, when you really have to prove yourself that you can improve, okay? So those times when you fail, those are the times where you can grow as a person, where you can become better, where you're going to show maturity to move forward. Let me see what I'm doing with time. Oh, I'm moving on. I think it's my final message. So Never let yourself down after you fail. Failing is part of life. Actually, my students, my PhD students, I don't know why, when things don't work, they are afraid of telling me that. It seems to me that they are afraid to tell me that something didn't work. And what I always tell them is, I'm missing research. Research is about doing something that no one has done before, okay? So when you come and you do an experiment for the first time, I expect it not to work because it's the first time that you're doing it, right? So whenever you try something new, be ready to fail, okay? But always be also ready to do the next step. What is the time of your life when you learn the most about, like, for example, motion? When you're a baby, right? So do you think the baby like started walking and he made it? No. He will always be falling down and falling down and falling down. But that's how you learn, okay? The good thing about the baby is that the baby doesn't care if he falls down, right? If suddenly we start like growing up, then we're like afraid of, oh, what is people gonna say if I don't make it because people are gonna make fun of me, they will think that I cannot make it, and I will feel bad. So we're a little bit too afraid of failing, and obviously, like when you're ready to take failure and moving forward, that's when you can make a big progress in your life. And I think this is what I wanted to share with you, and I'm super happy, and I really want to have questions or comments from you. Got it? Sorry? What would it mean?
You said you didn't get anyone to.
Okay. What happened was that, so the deal was the following. They told me, okay, you can stay in the master's, but you have to go back to Mexico and finish your degree. Once you finish your degree, you come back to Sweden, and then you can do the master's thesis and get your degree. And that's when I was, so that's what I did. I did my 1 year of classes in Sweden. I went back to Mexico, but then I didn't want to go back to Sweden. I went to Holland because of actually by that time I was really crazy about the electronic music. So I went, Holland is a place for electronic music, so I went to Holland not because of this professor doing nanotubes. I was going there just because of the electronic music thing. That's the total truth. This nanotube thing was like an excuse for like making it formally, but I wanted to go to Holland. That's what I wanted to do. There was someone in the back. Cool.
For those of you that don't know what the University of Monterrey is like, it's an Ivy League in Mexico. So if you didn't get into the national one, you got into an Ivy League.
Yep. The thing about the national university is that the exam is like it's about knowledge. You have to know a lot of things, and I mean, I wasn't going to spend like all my life like studying the history of Mexico and their war history, so I didn't make it, but that's okay. Anyone else? More questions?
What's your next goal?
Oh, my next goal is to get tenure. Yeah, so I have 4 more years to show that I can do it, that I'm a good teacher, which I have to improve a lot. I have to do a lot of service, and basically, so let me tell you, so basically at the end, they told you, it's kind of 60% research, 20% teaching, and 30% service to the university. That's what they're going to evaluate. So that's my goal, to get funding, to get papers, and be a good teacher, and do service like working with you. So that's my next goal. Hopefully I'll make it.
What is your advice to like study abroad, like in different countries?
Okay, so let me tell you, I think, so I went to Europe, and for me it was a great experience for 2 reasons. So Mexicans in Europe, we're kind of like a cool thing. They think that we are all fun and we love to drink tequila and party. So that was a good thing. So you go to, I was in Europe and they were like, oh, it's a Mexican guy. And it was like, oh, where's a Mexican? And now this one saying, oh, you should bring guacamole to the party. And so that was pretty cool. The other thing is that also in Europe, for example, they don't expect that you're going to do well. They don't think that we're a little bit lazy. But that played in my favor because when I was doing research, it was very easy for me to impress other people. that was an advantage. That I think because I was Mexican, like whatever I say, like it wasn't smart. They were like, "Oh, wow, this Mexican is good." That was something positive. The other thing that I realized there was that in Europe there is a lot of discrimination, but not against the Mexicans. Okay, so in Europe I could like see discrimination from a different perspective because over there the discrimination is against the Arab people, against the people from North Africa. Okay, so I could see how, for example, a lot of kids like from Turkey, from Eastern Europe, they cannot make it to college, for example, in Europe because of their system. And at the end, you realize why these kids don't feel like welcome in those countries, right? So I would definitely say go wherever you want to go. I would recommend to go out of the United States just to see a different kind of style, to learn different things, to see how people have a different perspective. So for me, Europe was great. It's an amazing place. They have great education, and I think they're always very receptive to people from the US or from Latin America. So if you can go to Europe, that's cool. Also, let me tell you, European countries, they give a lot of fellowships to non-European citizens. Okay? I found that in the US, it was very difficult for me to have funding for fellowships because I wasn't an American citizen. In Europe, they can definitely give you funding, or they can give you a fellowship if you go to Europe, even if you're not European. So that's a very big plus in there.
To the countries you went, how difficult was it to like adapt to like language, or did you have to, or you just used English?
Yeah, so I love Sweden because they actually put me in a Swedish language course, and that was pretty cool. And I mean, I tried my best, and what I always tried to do whenever I went to a country was at least knew a few words in that language to break the ice and to tell them that I was willing to learn something from them. And of course, eventually they realized that I wasn't able to speak, and they would switch to English. But I would say that something that I was really happy is that it doesn't really matter the language. I think if you show respect, if you have a good smile, if you are good making jokes with people, that's always a kind of like an icebreaker. So I mean, it's definitely a challenge, but it's nothing. I mean, I've never been afraid of meeting people who is different from me. I think humans, we have like universal values, again, like respect, smile, be thankful for the stuff that people do for you. I think those things are universal, and I would never be afraid of going to play. I don't think there is anyone who is that different that you can at the end make a good understanding of each other.
Your current research methods, how like as a teacher, you have to constantly support research goals.
Yes.
Before you said 10 years.
So the statistics is that in general, if the faculty usually give like 10 proposals, they will get only 3. It's just to give you an idea of like that you cannot bet that, oh, I'm gonna get this, I'm gonna write this proposal and I'm gonna get it. You have to think, you have to keep in mind that most of them you will make it. So you have to write more than you.
And one of them gets accepted, or you proceed and
I usually don't. I mean, no, that comes up to you how big you want to make your group, how big you want to make your research lab. And I mean, like in my second year, I think that I cannot really grow that more because I still don't feel like ready to mentor 10 students, for example. Especially because I'm a new professor, right? So every new student that comes, I have to train him, right? If I would be like, if I would have like PhD students who are like older, they will be able to train the new students. So I would be able to have a larger group. So it's also, I mean, you know, like the same way that perhaps you feel that coming to UCSD as a new student, you have new challenges and you have to go slow. It's the same for me as a junior faculty. I have to go like also carefully. I cannot run, I have to walk. I have to learn to walk first. So it doesn't matter where you are, there is always like a learning curve. Okay, so never think that you will come to a point where like, oh, I'm done. I don't have anything else to learn. I think life is about like always learning new things.
As a faculty member, what advice would you give to us undergrads that are looking for research opportunities?
That is very important. Try to look for research opportunities. I think, so in my experience, I have had like excellent students who first enroll into like research programs like UC Leeds, for example, or UC Stars, that's another one, because I think they already put like a very, very good frame in the sense that they have to prepare a poster, they can later submit an abstract to a conference, and that really is something that, sometimes in my case, I don't have the time check that. So I can tell you, I mean, I can help my students to prepare, to learn how to do research and be in the lab. But this guidance that this program gave them in terms of preparing like a proposal or an abstract, that's a very, very big, kind of like a much more like comprehensive program. So, I mean, you can always contact faculty directly, but if you can enroll into one of these programs like UC or UC Stars, I think that's better. And also, I think like looking for research positions is like a very good first kind of feeling about finding a job. Because you're going to talk to someone who doesn't really know you, and you have to like kind of have a good communication skills to call his attention, okay? So always people are like, oh, what is the way to write them, or shall I like write a huge email or a small email? You know, they're not like real rules, so try it. I mean, just try something, and again, if the first professor doesn't take you, there are so many other professors that can like take you, so never be, I mean, try it. You should always try, and that's how you will learn. But definitely having a good relation with faculty is very important. For the following reason. Sometimes when you apply for jobs, they will ask you for reference, right? So sometimes, I mean, I have calls from people in the company who want a reference from one of my students. So if it's a student that works in my lab, I can tell a lot of things about him, and that's excellent. But if I only know a student from the class, there is not much that I can tell about him, right? Basically everything is in the grades. So if you work in a research lab, you will have the chance to have like a mentor who can speak for you whenever you go abroad or whenever you go for a real job.
Since you're in a field that's constantly evolving and you do have to make certain proposals, how do you know if your ideas are like novel? Like, how do you know what you're doing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point. So, first of all, I can tell you, in my case, I came with 3 ideas. One of them is working nice. The other one is taking to take off, and one more I am dropping it completely because I think it's going anywhere. Actually, I raised 2 proposals and they got very bad reviews. Okay. Now, what I do now, even before writing the proposal, is I discuss with other professors who are like, I mean, senior professors that I can discuss with them. And depending on their feedback and depending on what they tell me, I can have a feeling of if it's a good idea and if it's worth moving forward. So, I mean, I'm not afraid to ask people, what do you think about it? I mean, at the end, that's, there's always people who have more experience than you, right? So, I always come with like a small slide and I discuss with some of them, and I'm thinking about writing this proposal, what do you think? And I just get their honest answer, and it's up to me I mean, they're not going to tell me, oh, this is a bad idea, right? But you have to kind of learn to read their feedback, right? And realize, is this worth or not? So, I mean, but yeah, I have to ask. I mean, it's part of my job to evaluate my ideas, and don't be angry if they don't like the idea. I mean, that's life. I mean, I have some ideas that people like and some that they don't, and I'm happy with that. Good.
So you said you started in Mexico. What's your experience for like studying science in different languages?
No, I think science actually is quite easy because at the end most of it is about equations. So I would say that was a big challenge, like the language part. Perhaps in humanities or in other fields might be more challenging. But I never, and also because when I was in Mexico, some of my books were already in English. So I wouldn't say that was a big thing. I guess perhaps it was more like the cultural, like the style, for example. Like the way, like, for example, in Sweden, the classic was like super interactive. The students would like ask a lot of questions. In Mexico, you're a little more afraid to ask questions. So that was, for example, something that was like a little bit different. Like the studying, like the style of interacting with the professors. In Sweden, it was like very kind of like personal, and we could discuss a lot with the professors. In Mexico, I always felt that there was like a big barrier. So that was a challenge, let's say. But I, little by little, being here, I got used to like have more direct conversations with professors. So that was a challenge for like that was like a challenge going from Mexico to Europe. Good. Okay, well, thank you so much for your attention.
Alright, so before we end today's presentation, we actually want to recognize somebody in the room who I'm pretty sure Dr. Mena would say was a very important part in their life. So actually Dr. Mena's mother is here, so she came to visit. So I'm going to do like a quick little message in Spanish. Le queremos dar las gracias a la mamá del Dr. Mena, porque estoy segura de que también ella fue una gran ayuda en toda su vida y en toda su carrera. So,